Item E, Balanced District Scorecard Priority 1, Mr. Jarrett.
Actually, I'm going to kick it off, Mrs. Groner, but that's okay. Ladies and gentlemen, if you'll remember, we brought to you the completed district scorecard back in December, and we had given to you a schedule or a proposed schedule to a cadence to review. And so this evening, Mr. Jarrett is going to cover the student portion of it, Priority 1, of our Balanced District Scorecard along with his staff. So, Mr. Jarrett.
Thank you, Dr. Micah. As Dr. Micah talked about, this is our first stab at kind of trying to explain the district scorecard in our work. I think what's been fascinating through this process is really, as we look at TAP-R and then looking at live data is what I would call it, which is actionable data that we can consider as we make decisions for the other 50% of the school year. And so I have my team of folks here, Jennifer Gutierrez, Reve Schaefer, Brenda Oates, and Esmeralda Munoz, because these four ladies kind of help pull all the pieces together to help us move in the direction of this continuous improvement. And so if we can go to the next slide. And so as you guys adopted a district scorecard, we really kind of embraced the whole idea that we support students in a multitude of ways. And I think that's important in this statement because it's not just about the academics of math, science, social studies, and English, but a child requires a lot more service and support. And so these ladies, as they're working with their teams, they're also looking at the learning outcomes, but they're looking also at the overall well-being of the child, but also that partnership with parents as we navigate a high-quality education for kids. And so these four areas are the objectives that you guys identified. And so what we did is we took these objectives and then we created action items and progress measures along the way. And so through this presentation, they're going to point out some data points. Some will be qualitative, some will be quantitative. If we miss the mark, I promise we'll learn from it and we'll grow from it because it is a journey. But at this point, I think it's very important for us to really be reflective in our practices and modify and adjust accordingly to meet the needs of our kids. And so I'll turn it over to Jennifer Gutierrez and Reve for the first portion.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Micah, executive staff, and guests. As Mr. Jarrett mentioned, we have the first objective, and we have 3 key actions under the first objective. So the first key action is curriculum. And when we address curriculum and you see the word guaranteed here, this refers back to no matter which one of our classrooms, no matter which one of our courses, which one of our grade levels, we really ensure that all of our students have the opportunity to learn the same content that needs to be mastered at that grade level. The word viable means that our teachers have the adequate time and resources in order to be able to provide and teach that guaranteed curriculum to our students. The intended component is determined by our state of Texas. Those are our Texas essential knowledge and skills. Those are our standards. And the implemented piece is the way in which those standards are delivered at the highest level of rigor to ensure that, again, that intended curriculum is implemented within our classrooms and attained by all of our students. So that is how we measure that mastery for each of those standards and at that course or grade level are attained. So when we look at how we progress measure these pieces, we're looking at our district end of unit assessments, which are very specific to a unit and the level of mastery that was attained at the end of that unit. We look at common formative assessments, which are given throughout the unit to ensure that there are supports throughout and that our students are able to receive either interventions, reteach, or even extensions prior to that end of unit assessment. And we engage in targeted instructional rounds. We partner with our campus administrator, executive directors, with the executive director of special education, learning support services, as you will hear from them, to really help our campuses analyze problems of practice. So as we are on their campuses, they share with us what trends they are seeing, what may be a concern that they have based on their data, a specific grade level, and then we work closely with them to ensure that we can help them create an action plan with support from our teams. When we're looking at those professional learning community fidelity checks, all of our campuses are in a different place in the professional learning community journey, and our goal is to meet them where they are at, again, based on the campus needs, based on what they've shared that they are struggling with. We ensure that we're able to provide them that support so that they can continue on that journey. Every one of our sessions has a professional learning survey, and Reve and I take the time to read those lines very carefully in our professional learning surveys, and we use that feedback to develop additional training, again, additional support. We look within our teams to see how we can ensure that the services we are provided are aligned to what our surveys reflect. Each one of our curriculum units also offers a feedback link, so our teachers, our administrators are able to provide feedback as they are teaching a lesson or after a unit, and we look at that feedback to reflect on the curriculum that is provided, but also to think about how we're going to make changes in the future, if there are any units that need to be rearranged for the future, and how to develop our curriculum for summer school. We develop very personalized campus support, so our campuses reach out to us, they fill out a Google form that they request, again, very specific personalized support based on the needs of their campus. We know every campus is very different, they have very different needs, and our goal is to personalize that support to meet the needs of every one of our students.
Good evening, Madam President, Dr. Micah, Board, Executive Staff, and guests. I'm Reve Schaefer. It's nice to see you and talk to you a little bit about instruction. So as you see in these first key actions, we broke them into curriculum, instruction, and assessment. And so when we're talking about curriculum delivery, that's specifically instruction. And we're looking to support our campuses in implementing their the Northeast ISD instructional framework, which supports students where they are and helps to grow teachers as well. And so in our pursuit of developing critical thinking skills with students, we want to support and equip teachers with being able to do that as well. So when we talk about progress measures, we're talking about learning walks and instructional rounds where we're working as teams in partnership with campuses to observe instruction and support folks where they are and help them to grow to where they want to be. A lot of our campuses are helping teachers to choose an area to focus on in their own instruction and then providing feedback to help teachers grow where they ask to be supported. So it's an exciting adventure. Many of the things that Jennifer described are the way in which we check in on how well the instructional framework is being used, but then also we develop service agreements to support our campuses and action plans to help them implement those services on their campus to grow students and to grow teachers on the campus as well.
So here are a few examples of the support that our teams provide to our teachers and campuses in, again, that pursuit to ensure that all of our students are growing and becoming critical thinkers. So we've engaged in the House Bill 3 reading academies, and we have had a commitment, our district committed to the comprehensive model. When we speak to other districts across the region or across the state, they decided to go with a blended model that just has teachers working self-paced on a computer to learn the content. We felt that this investment was very worthwhile for our students as we are working to ensure that our students have all of the literacy foundational skills that are needed so that they are reading at grade level and really able to tackle the complexity in reading and comprehension that comes after third grade. And so Reading Academies, we are in year 2, and we've served all of our campuses will complete by the end of this school year. That's all of our kinder, first, second, third grade teachers, special education teachers, interventionists, coaches. So they are all engaging in the Reading Academy's work. The benefit of having the comprehensive model is that they don't only receive the training, but our cohort leaders are able to go into their classrooms and support, coach, provide modeling. So there is feedback throughout the year and coaching and support for our teachers. This picture that you see here is actually from our communications department, and it was on our webpage. They highlighted a teacher that was implementing those strategies that she learned at Reading Academies with her students, and the students were finding a lot of benefit, and we're excited about the learning.
And Ms. Gutierrez, we are doing the trainings, correct?
That's correct. We are actually an authorized provider. So a few years back when the application was released, again, that commitment, thank you, Dr. Micah and executive staff for approving that, allowed us to become an authorized provider, which means that we have our own in-house cohort leaders. And they went to receive training from TEA, had to pass very rigorous exams in order to be able to provide this training for our teachers.
Can I ask you a question?
Of course.
I'm sorry. Are we teaching phonics still in the classroom?
Yes, we do. That's part of the Science of Teaching, Reading, and Reading Academies.
Okay,
So this
thank
is
you.
Component. Thank you.
Good.
So that is not the only reading or literacy training that happens in our campuses. Secondary also has reading acceleration and writing project. As we're transitioning to STAR 2.0, we're working with our teachers to ensure that they understand how short constructed response and extended constructed response are going to be a part of the STAR assessment. So starting in third grade, there will be a written component. There is no standalone writing test anymore like there used to be in fourth and seventh grade. So all of our literacy training supports that shift for our teachers. In math, we developed our own in-house math academies at elementary, knowing that the pandemic had adverse effects in mathematics, and we wanted to make sure that we were supporting our teachers with acceleration strategies, that they were able to have the knowledge and skills to be able to close gaps in math, and that is continuous. That is, again, not the only training, but that is just one example. We engage in unpacking with teachers, and the secondary team as well has many trainings that they offer, unit trainings right before a unit begins. Our professional learning department works with our mentors to develop a culture of mentorship, and our mentors are tasked with supporting and working with our first and second year teachers on their campuses. And so we ensure that they have the skills and knowledge they need to be able to support our first and second year teachers. Again, in an effort to retain and recruit the best and ensure that our first and second year teachers have all of the skills, knowledge, and training that they need. That's a picture of our first and second year cohort there. Our professional learning office meets with them often to make sure that throughout the phases in the school year that they are prepared for what they will encounter throughout the school year, and that, again, they're able to share what challenges they're having, and we're able to provide the support and systems that they need to be successful throughout the school year. Oh, sorry.
That's okay. So you can hear the systems approach to the highest need groups that Jennifer described. And so we know the greatest lever on student change and and academic growth is that teacher in the classroom. And so we think about how we train curriculum instruction and assessment approaches and what we're doing every year. So we're on a monthly cycle. And essentially what happens is we train our principals and leadership teams first, and then we train everybody else. So in the pictures, you'll notice there are pictures of our middle school deans. There are also instructional deans at high school, instructional coaches at campuses, and then assistant principals, curriculum assistant principals who function in a collaborative team or a PLC, as you've been hearing about this year. And so we really have created a sustainability plan where we have our own internal staff who are training PLC now. And so we're in our 5th year in the transition of our team in Northeast ISD doing it the Northeast way. And so we are really supporting all of these collaborative teams to grow and be strong in their alignment with what's happening in curriculum instruction and assessment. On the far right of the slide, you'll notice a sample assessment dashboard. So it's an assessment tracker that a campus is using to see student growth. And so you'll see lots of different kinds of examples of these metrics or dashboards on campuses to see students grow and support their growth. And we're going to show you some data here in just a second that represents that as well.
And I just want to add, we really are trying to spend a lot of time on capacity building. We recognize we cannot lead campuses from central office because it's more about how close a point of influence you have. And so the closest point of influence, of course, is a classroom teacher to students, but the next point is going to be the principals and leaders in those schools. And so to what Ms. Schaefer is saying is regards to monthly meetings and training opportunities, we're engaging with them so they can continue the message and the work beyond just a one and done type training. And so that's why we're trying to embrace more in-house training aside from creating other resources from outside, because that's how we create a sustainability plan long term, and that supports our scorecard.
So our last key action is assessment, and a balanced assessment system really allows us to focus on instruction and be able to respond immediately to the needs of our students based on the data that we had. So very different from what we just heard from Brandy Merriman, who talked about STAR data, that's summative data at the very end of the school year that shows mastery. When we're looking at a balanced assessment system, we're looking at daily formatives. We are looking at collaborative teams who are creating assessments after learning targets to ensure that they can adjust their instruction, but that we can also provide support for students based on the results that we are seeing. And one of the ways that we do this is through our universal screener, which is the measure of academic progress, MAP. And we give this assessment 3 times a year, beginning, middle, and end. And really, it is a way for us to diagnose where our students are. So just like we go to an annual checkup every year with our doctor to ensure that, that our blood pressure is at the appropriate level, that there aren't any health concerns, this screener really allows us to pinpoint where exactly our students are and what they need in their instructional progression. And so our teachers are able to use this data and really know what prior knowledge they have to build with students based on the results, or who is ready for some extensions. And so again, it diagnoses very specifically by skill and by target for our students so that we know how to meet their needs. We engage in data analysis through all of the reports that MAP provides, and they are very extensive. We receive those reports beginning, middle, and end of the year, and our teachers and our campus administrators are able to create action plans based on the results that they are seeing. So again, it is a way to respond to the data immediately. January 2nd, which was a staff development day, we looked at our middle of the year reports, and our teachers engaged in a data analysis protocol as grade level teams or by course at secondary. And they were able to really look and pinpoint at where their students are, how much growth they've made from beginning of the year to middle of the year, and create action plans and next steps for their students based on the data. So here is some teacher feedback. As I shared with you earlier, we're consistently gathering feedback from all of our sessions, but you can see here that the greatest value of this data protocol was having the ability to see where each student is at and address addressing their learning needs along with providing them the continuous rigor within their specific grade level. So this really allows us to ensure that we are teaching to the level of rigor that is intended on all of our standards. I'm not going to read each of these to you, but you can see how they really take the time to disaggregate the data, create action plans, prepare small group instruction. And I think it's really powerful to see that third one there where it talks about how even in some of my higher performing students, I was able to see that they are not growing at the pace that we should see them growing, so they need more enrichment. So that, again, it allows teachers to really shift their practice and add those pieces for the second part of the school year. Did you have a question? Yes.
I do. Okay. I was made aware that some of the teachers are no longer requiring that the students read novels. They're now just reading short stories. Is this true, or is this something that is should be addressed? Because frankly, in the 4th grade, I was reading Gone with the Wind and things like this. I would like to know that we're not missing the boat and just allowing these kids to just read this 3-page story and be done.
So our text comes from our core adopted curriculum at elementary school, and that is My View, which was board adopted, and that is where our text comes from. It is not a novel per se, but it's very complex text that students have to decipher and then engage in comprehension strategies and skills, multiple comprehension strategies. So they use the text to make inferences, to summarize, to find the main idea in detail. So they really dig deep into the text and analyze it. That would be for elementary. I don't know if you want to speak to secondary.
So at secondary, we are expected to master multiple genres, multiple texts. So we're going to see a lot of different kinds of writing that come together, and our students at secondary are analyzing those multiple texts to make sense of a theme. So you'll see novels, you'll see short stories, you'll see a variety of text on every campus.
Thank you.
So when we talk about the balanced assessment system and the role of MAP, one of the things that we really wanted to ensure is that we had a way of measuring growth with our students. And so the MAP assessment really allows us to see that growth and comparatively from year to year as well. So we know how students enter the year, how ready they are in math and reading, and then how much they've progressed by mid-year, and then again at the end of the year. So one of the purposes of MAP as a universal screener is to tell us where our students are. We can evaluate pretty quickly from a beginning to a middle of the year assessment how well our instruction is working for students, how impactful it is in ensuring growth of our students. And then there's the predictive proficiency piece of the MAP test that allows us to see how close in our projections we are with how students might do on their STAR assessments, ACT and SAT. So we get reports on all 3 of those in those alignment pieces. So it helps us to know how close our students are on their progress to growing and achieving their expected growth in a year. And in a little bit, you're going to see some numbers, and the number 50 is what we're looking for in terms of achievement and growth in any report. So what this allows us to do is to respond to student needs immediately. And as you saw some of the comments from teachers, they are responding from hour to hour, day to day, week to week, so that if a student needs an intervention or they need an extension, that our teachers are able to respond very quickly with that kind of touchstone of data. The other thing that it allows our campus leaders to do is to consider reallocating resources if necessary. If they can see that growth is not moving in the right direction, they can rethink with their teams how they might need to help that growth accelerate and then support students and teachers in doing so. So that's some of the benefits of using the MAP assessment in our balanced assessment system.
So I'm going to build a little bit of context before we talk about these charts. So just want to remind you that the primary purpose of the measure of academic progress map is really to inform our instruction. It is not an assessment that measures mastery again, like STAR, it's really to find strengths in our students and areas of opportunity. And so again, it really allows us this time of year, middle of the year, to know exactly where we are and build a roadmap to mastery for our students. So when we're looking at the achievement percentiles, here in the first chart, we are comparing last year's achievement to this year's achievement on our middle of the year results. So when you see that 64 under kindergarten, our kindergartners performed 64% better than the norm and but better than the nation. And so that's what those numbers mean in achievement. So we can see here that in math, our achievement is higher than where we were last year. The chart below is the school conditional growth percentile, and this compares our schools to schools that started with the same RIT achievement, what they call RIT band, so the same achievement that have the same number of instructional weeks between assessments. So from beginning of the year to middle of the year, they compare us to other districts who took the assessment within the same instructional weeks and at that grade level. So you can see here, as Reve was mentioning, think of it as a bell curve. 50 is the mean, so we want to see 50. If we see above 50, then we are accelerating growth. Anything below 50, we need to really keep an eye on or look deeper at those results. And so when you look at the results here, we have some grade levels that are growing students at a faster pace than they were last year, but some that are not growing as fast as they were. And just because you are seeing lower numbers, it does not mean that they're not growing. So for example, that number in first grade, our students were projected to grow 9, they grew 8. And so the schools we are being compared to are just growing at a faster pace than we are. And so again, this is where we have those conversations through training with our campus principals to really dig deep into those reports so that we can find the root cause and be able to support the campuses with the needs based on the data that they're seeing for their campus.
Could I ask a quick question?
Yes.
Looking at the first and fourth grade in particular, obviously the numbers are lower. This is district-wide for all 40-plus elementary schools?
This is for all 45 elementary schools.
And then you break it down by individual campus, I would assume? And then
we
y'all can-
have district reports.
But that's,
Yeah,
that's for
and-
what you all do. I'm just asking.
Yes, we have
This is-
campus reports, and our principals have their individual campus report, and teachers also have teacher reports that drills down to individual student data.
Okay,
That
so-
shows how many points their students were projected to grow. Did they grow? Not enough? Regressed? Did they exceed? So we have, again, a variety of reports that we can use to support our teachers to make sure that they can create the right plans based on the data that they have.
And then they're sharing the best practices across campus up through the district, I'm assuming.
That's correct. That
Good,
is
good. Okay.
what they do through their professional learning communities. And at our last joint principals meeting, all of our principals met and we looked at their reports. They created an action plan just like the teachers did in that feedback that we provided.
Great, thank you.
Yes. Oh, sorry. The next report shows the same group of students being compared who tested beginning of the year, so that's the blue bar, to middle of the year, red. So we can see that their achievement percentiles from the fall, beginning of year, to winter. And at the top, we see their projected proficiency at that grade level, the percent of students that met their projected proficiency. So again, when we see above 50, we are accelerating growth, and anything below, we need to keep an eye on. And as we're accelerating growth, then our achievement grows as well. So that is what we want to see. And again, we work on those plans with our teachers and administrators. Keep wanting to pass it over to you. Sorry, kept going back and forth for a while. This chart shows our students, again, beginning of the year to middle of the year for our economically disadvantaged student group. So you can see in the maroon where our all student data falls in comparison with our economically disadvantaged students and the gap that exists between those, the points. And so again, this is where those grade level and student reports really become essential, so that we're planning those interventions, tutoring, support, anything that our students need, so we're able to close those gaps.
So now we're looking at middle school math. So you see grades 6 through 8. And again, at the top, we see achievement percentiles, and then comparison to other school conditional growth percentiles as well. So this gives us another touchstone to look at how well things are happening at each grade level and what trends we might see across the district as well. And then this is all students in secondary math. So blue is fall, red is winter. So this is beginning of the year to middle of the year. We're looking for that 50% met growth goal. And so to contextualize that, we're talking about that early August, beginning of the year, to a November, middle of the year. So it feels really good when we hit that 50 around that time. It tells us we still have a few more months to really close the gap and help our students move forward in their accelerated learning to reach their projected proficiency and growth. And then this is an examination of the difference between economically disadvantaged students and all for fall and winter administration, and current growth goal for our students. So this has allowed some of our campuses to make strategic collaborative teams around a problem of practice to determine what of the strategies that we've been training our teams might work best to accelerate students to get where they need to be to continue growing.
Do you mind going back to the slide for a second?
Sure.
Just make sure I'm understanding this right. So if I'm looking at 7th and 8th grade, they actually, from August to November, actually went down percentage-wise.
Correct.
So have we identified, am I reading that correctly?
Yes, that's correct.
So they're actually not,
So it's a short regression there.
okay.
Correct.
So we're regressing. So we identified this. Obviously, we want to go the other way.
Absolutely,
Okay.
yes.
But yeah, so we identified what the issues were and why we're seeing in both 7th and 8th grade.
Yes, so did somebody? Oh, that's
I
you
heard
wanted
yes
to say
from-
something.
I-
Sorry,
I heard it too.
I thought somebody was piping in. So we actually provided this data to all of our campus teams. Our teachers received some analytical support. So on the January 2nd day that Jennifer described, they had time to look at their data, build an action plan. So they got much deeper. What we're looking for above that is that 50% met growth goal. They're still growing, just not as fast. And so while there's a little regression there, they still met that growth goal for that middle of the year piece. But we're not going to stop. We still need to keep our foot on the gas to keep them growing and moving. Absolutely.
Is it the same assessment or is it more advanced assessment from the August to the November testing?
It's the same, but it's a student responsive. So
Okay.
as students progress through and how well they do, that's how they get the items on the assessment for math.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
So here we have the same data for elementary reading, K-5. And again, when we're looking at that kindergarten 68, so our kindergarten 68% outperformed those other kindergartners in the norm across the nation. So we can see here that our percentiles were a bit higher last year for some of our grade levels. For some, like 4th and 5th grade, our percentiles have increased compared to last year. So again, a very specific disaggregation of data, taking a look at our curriculum to see how our units are paced out. And in 1st grade, I know we've had a lot of conversations about adding additional decodable text to ensure that our students are having enough text to read as we, analyze this data and are trying to provide more resources and support for our classrooms and our teachers to, just be able to close those gaps that we are seeing. And so you can see again here, this is the projected growth that was met by grade level. Again, if we're exceeding 50, we're accelerating growth. If we see something below, like in that 1st grade, then that's an area to really take a closer look for us and for our campuses. And here is the gap between all students and our economically disadvantaged students.
So now we're looking at middle school reading as well. So we can see the same trend in the data that we looked at before, achievement percentiles, and then school conditional growth. So we have some work to do in reading or in ELAR in middle school. That's okay. So this is how we are looking right now in terms of all students. So we did see some regression at 6th, 7th, and 8th, and 9th grade. And we can see that we're just under that 50% that we'd like to be at right now. And so our teams, both on the teacher side, the curriculum side, and of course the leadership team of every campus has a protocol that they are working through to build an action plan to accelerate learning. And so we'll continue talking about that, but this is a piece that we're working on strategically. There's one more. And then the next piece is the gap between our economically disadvantaged students and all students. And so we've got quite a bit of gap to close here. And so this is a problem of practice that our team is working on. We're looking at curriculum to determine how we can have more responsive curriculum to help close some of those gaps for our students.
So our next steps, we continue to support campuses through professional learning, and we provide that professional learning in different modalities to ensure that we can reach all of our teachers. So we have self-paced sessions, webinars, in person. We offer after schools, super Saturdays. So again, just trying to reach all of our teachers to be able to support and ensure, as Mr. Jarrett said, that we are building their knowledge and their skills so that we are able to close those gaps that we are seeing in our data, and that we can finish the school year strong and our students are mastering. And we will continue our partnership with the executive directors in campus administration, special education, learning support services to continue those instructional rounds across our campuses to really look for those problems of practice in specific grade levels, in specific areas, again, to ensure that they have all that they need to be able to grow our students and ensure that they are critical thinkers and engaged in those higher level productive struggle lessons that allow them to develop and apply those critical thinking skills. And again, we support all of our campuses based on their very specific needs. So we have very personalized plans, service agreements that we use to ensure that we meet the needs of all of our campuses and students based on what their data is saying. At this time, we are going to hand over the presentation to Dr. Munoz and Mrs. Brenda Oates. And happy School Board Recognition Month. Thank you for all that you do. Thank you for your service. We appreciate you.
So just really quickly also to close, I think it's important as we talk about a scorecard, and I know it's a lot of data, and unfortunately, we look at it all the time, so with some other pieces we look at. But knowing where your students are at in the middle of the year and being able to respond is extremely important. Because in the past, what typically would happen is we would just look at the autopsy and say, what happened here, right? And so really now what we're doing is saying, we see there's a problem, here's an opportunity, what are we going to do about it? And really work with the schools to help them navigate their action plans collaboratively. And so that's kind of what Jennifer Brevet is really trying to convey through this message. So hopefully as we work together, we'll come up with a plan, because we do have some pain points that we've looked at, like first grade, that we're really concerned about.
Well,
Go ahead.
Sorry.
No, you go ahead.
I was saying, Mr. Jarrett, to that point, you can get lost in the numbers pretty quickly. A lot of this stuff, are we through these PLCs and with the cohorts and these teachers working together, making sure that we're not losing sight of the qualitative data of kids that might not take an assessment test very well, but they know the material. Like during the day, they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And we're not just saying, okay, well, this one number, okay, this isn't a 50, this is a 49.
Yeah, it's collective. So that's why they talked about a balanced assessment system. And that's where the teachers are looking at not just the MAP assessment, they're also looking at trend data. So if you see a student who started off very high, and I'll just use a campus particular, they're tracking each student. This particular campus has every student's picture in a room. And every student, they have a beginning of year MAP data, and their score is posted. And then what they look at is saying, did this child regress? And so with that kiddo regress, what we saw is there were some kids that were flying very high. Is their regression solely based on academic knowledge? Well, probably not. There could be something going on beyond just the academic side. It could be something going on at home that's making that kid stressed, be not focused, all these other variables. So we look at it from a holistic approach.
Good.
But far as systemically on a curriculum instruction side, we look at it systemically in the sense of we see a problem in say, first grade. So Jennifer and her team say, well, let's look at the curriculum, just make sure we're not missing something and making sure everything is aligned. But then if we see everything is aligned, then we're saying, so what are some hard to teach, hard to learn concepts that we need to go back and reinforce with our teachers so when they go in there, they have more tools in their toolbox to be able to service those kids. So we look at it holistically instead of just as that one tool. But I think for the board to know where we're at as a district and considering a scorecard, it was just important for you guys to know we still have a mountain to climb, but we're not too far off from hitting that 50% mark in most areas.
Anybody else have anything? So I did want to kind of ask about first grade. I mean, do we know what is causing that, or what? I mean,
No.
why? Okay.
So I mean, we could
If you did,
speculate.
you would-
Yeah.
yeah.
So it's like, I wish I had a crystal ball and we could speculate, but we really don't want to do that. And I think when we shared the data with all the principals and the principal unit, I think everybody kind of scratched their head trying to figure out what's going on in first grade. Now, we know that a lot of kids stayed home during the pandemic, and this very well may be their first opportunity for learning. But I don't even want to say that because that may excuse us from doing something about it. So really, we're looking at it from all angles to see what we can do to fix the problem versus just admire it.
Okay, thanks. Sorry, go ahead.
Good evening, Madam President, board members, Dr. Micah, executive staff, and guests. Now it's our turn to go ahead and share the CCMR information. I think it's super important to know that it is truly a testament to the hard work of elementary and secondary curriculum, CNI. It lends itself directly to the CCMR component. Everything from the reading and the math, social studies and science, you're going to start to see some of that come to fruition with some of the CCMR data. And a lot of the collaborative efforts, like I have my wonderful partner here, Mrs. Brenda Oates with special education. We've been working side by side with CCMR to ensure that that particular component is available and ready for all students, all student populations. And so essentially part of the scorecard, our idea was to be able to provide that support system for the indicator that's listed there, which is that we will provide quality programs to support college, career, and military readiness. We have our military representative in the audience, so he is going to share some information. If y'all have any questions on JROTC or any military information, he will come and answer those questions. So essentially what we do is we do provide various opportunities that tie directly to CCMR, and you're going to see a large number of items here, and you're going to see numbers by all of these charts. But I think it's super important for you to understand as well that there is a lot going on at the campuses, that they're trying really, really hard to capture all of those kids, especially our seniors, who can earn that CCMR indicator. And it is truly a testament of their work that they are doing everything they can proactively to ensure that those kiddos get that indicator. So if you notice there, PSAT 8, 9, 10, and 11, which is grades 9 through 11, we had 4,016 students, 4,300 students, and 3,800 students, a little over, who participated by grade level across the district in PSAT. That does also lend itself to AP potential lists, so that way the student knows what subject area they're actually very strong in, and they could actually get that recommendation to take that AP or dual credit class. We have SAT School Day. We had over 4,500 students participate. And advanced placement exams, we had 7,302 students, and we have a little over 11,532 exam registrations. So that student may take multiple exams. That's why you see a difference in the number. What I'm really proud to report is that, especially with the advanced placement exams, we are a little over 1,500 student increase from last year to this year. And we actually have gone up by a little over 600 exams from last year to this year. So there's obviously a lot going on in the classroom where there's a lot of preparation, that more students are wanting to challenge AP coursework along with the exams. We also have about 715 students right now that have completed their fall semester of dual credit. I'm also very happy to report that we're up quite a bit when it comes to the actual dual credit enrollment. We do have pending is spring numbers, so I would love to give you those at the end of the spring to tell you a solid number from fall and spring, how much more we did go up. But yes, we did go up so far. TSIA 2, which is something actually that Ms. Gutierrez referenced as far as how STAR is starting to change that 2.0 realm. Well, so did TSIA, which is the Texas Success Initiative Assessment 2.0, just like STAR. And they no longer have the reading and the writing component separate. They used to test that years ago. It was a separate assessment. Now they've consolidated it, much like STAR. So a lot of what the kiddos are doing automatically from K1, 2, 3 STAR assessment lends itself to that trajectory of learning that needs to be present, so that way the kiddos can actually take that test and be accepted into a college or university. And so we do have, so far, for the fall, we have 398 exams that have been administered, which is up by almost 100 exams so far this year. So we're very, very happy with that. Part of that conversation also lends itself as part of the guidance office visits, which we've been very, very grateful that our counselors have been logging into Skyward, going in and talking about what exactly we're talking to kids about, and CCMR is at the top of their list. And so we have so far a little over 33,000 high school guidance office visits, and this is just from August until January to date, okay? A little over 16,000 office visits at middle school and a little over 12,000 at the elementary school. And again, because of learning support services, we have a lot of programs that are under this particular department. We have decided to join forces not only with special education, CTE, industry partners, magnets, and then our colleges and universities. We had our first annual College and Career Expo. I hope you guys heard some wonderful news about that. We had over 127 college representatives that were there present, and we had over 3,000 community members that actually went to Freeman Coliseum to participate in that event. So we were very, very happy to showcase everything that NEISD has to offer regarding CCMR. It's a lot of numbers, but just please bear with me. There's a lot more to come. So we also look at making sure that we talk to our community, we look at industry partners, we talk to them, engage in conversations with them, and bringing in that relevance as far as industry-based certifications, pathways, magnets, and Northeast is very unique in that we are going to pay attention to what is actually out there that we really need to outfit our kids with, especially from the post-secondary side. So looking at our magnets, we have 9 magnets, 3 middle school. We have our magnet enrollment that's going up. We're going to close actually in Dr. Micah's message on Friday. It ends February 6th, and we still have those numbers going up in magnet applications as well. We have our CTE program enrollment. We are up to 14,492 students across the district, grades 7 through 12, in CTE programs of study. We've earned the highest to date right now. We do have our goal to at least double that, we're hoping, for industry-based certifications. We have a little over 75% of our teachers who are teaching an IBC already certified, which we're very, very happy because our teachers are actually taking that into consideration. How can I prepare kids for that certification so they are also certified? We have our College and Career Expo that I had mentioned a little while ago. We had 31 business and industry partners that were present. We did have all of our magnet programs and our 9 CTE programs and 7 magnet programs that were participating there. The formal partnerships that we have, that's actually a memorandum of understanding, or MOU. We have everything from Tarleton to UT Health Science. We have Pearson VUE for the exact type of testing that industry-based certification requires, so our kids are exposed to that. And NASA, of course, is still in progress. And we're very happy to report that this year we're actually going to have, as a result of our Business and Industry Council partner meetings, they would like to have a career expo. And we're looking at the potential of working together with those industry partners right there, because they want to be able to not only secure the fact that our kiddos are earning that industry-based certification, but that they can actually secure employment after they graduate high school, allow them to continue to go to college. That is one of the stipulations that we had. We said they will not go to college. You have to tell them to go to college, and then you can provide the opportunity for work there. And so we're hoping to then actually have this as an ongoing college and career in the fall, and then career expo to get ready for that summer work in the spring. And then most definitely to outfit those kids who may be moving away from San Antonio with the potential of working within those organizations in a different city or a different part of the state, different the state, across the nation, depending on the organization. So it's been a lot of conversation, and hopefully that'll come to fruition this spring. And so part of, I'm sorry, yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, I just had a quick question. Do you ever work with or as a partner Accenture? I know there've been a company that has hired several Roosevelt graduates in the past. So just a suggestion.
Definitely. I've already written it down. Thank you. And then now it's my wonderful executive director for staff.
Thank you. Good evening, President Grona, Dr. Micah, members of the board, executive staff, and guests. I'm pleased to be here tonight to present a little bit of a perspective on special education, which you haven't heard much about to this point tonight in the presentations, but I want to ensure you that everything we do addresses all students, and students with IEPs are general education students first. And so when we talk about curriculum and instruction and assessment, when we talk about CCMR, we assume that we're doing right by all students. And our conversations as a collaborative team focus on ensuring that we have equal access for all students. Understanding that there is one group of our students with IEPs that are not likely to go on to traditional, college settings, to traditional careers, and to what we would consider a traditional life setting of independent living. And so those students we focus on a little more specifically in developing some things that are more unique to their needs. Rather than supplementing to ensure instructional equity, we're going to actually provide very specialized programs for those students. And so with that, primarily through our NETS program, Northeast Transition Services, and then our Beyond classes that are located on every one of our high school campuses, for those students who are 18 through age 22, we provide job skills training, we provide job coaching, daily living skills instruction. So that is everything from personal hygiene to laundry to food preparation, anything that they may need to live independently or in a supported living environment. We also are so excited with the amount of industry certifications that are being earned by our students, understanding that when we look at CCMR credits on accountability for the district, there's a set of industry certifications that are approved. And so some of our students are earning those approved certifications, but students like this gentleman in our picture here are earning industry certifications that are not approved by TEA to count, but they're equally as important. So he is our first student from NETS that has earned a food handler certification by working alongside our school nutrition department. And so he will have the opportunity, along with some of his peers as we move through the year, to start working more and more with child nutrition and supporting those programs during the summer as well. So really trying to find that niche for those students so that they have a belongingness within our organization as well. We have Texas Workforce Partnerships. Texas Workforce Commission comes in, they do training for us, they do some pre-ETS or some pre-employability training during the summer for our students, working alongside our families to help make sure that students and families understand what agency supports are available for them after they leave our programs, either when they've completed their IEP or they age out by reaching age 22. We want to make sure that they have the connections that they need to be successful beyond Northeast ISD. We have tons of employer partnerships within the community. We're looking at additional school-based enterprises through grant opportunities with Texas A&M in College Station. They have some tremendous programs for students with significant cognitive disabilities, and they partner with districts like Northeast to provide funding so that we can have our own school-based enterprises. And then last but certainly not least is our Community Resources Fair. It typically takes place alongside some of our Special Olympics activities, and that's where we bring in agencies and organizations throughout the community to make sure that our parents are able to make those face-to-face connections right there at the resource fair to make sure that they have the connection when their children are through with our programs. Any questions about those services? Okay. Dr. Munoz? And I'll chime in more as we go.
Thank you, yes. And so this is all connected to that life readiness piece as well. So next step for us as a Learning Support Services Department in collaboration with CNI all the way from elementary through secondary special education, And then other departments like child nutrition, who is also going to include some of our CTE students in the summer program feeding sites as well, which we were very excited about. We are looking at instructional support for advanced academics, making sure that we're tailoring that support through those instructional walks, making sure that we're looking at those CTE courses. We realized very quickly at the start when a couple years back, we were able to really look at those pathways, aligning those pathways to meet the needs of kids, along with the industry-based certification with post-secondary opportunities, but then also to be able to give them the training that they needed to write curriculum, so that way, as a district, we're all on a level playing field. A course is a course is a course, regardless of where you're teaching it, and so all students should have that availability to not only the platform, but to great teaching and great instructional strategies to make sure that kiddos get that opportunity. Again, the industry-based certification that I had mentioned for staff, and then we also have instructional support that's going out to campus leadership teams. So we have established a beginning, middle, and end of year CCMR goal setting and progress monitoring team that goes out. We just had our second visit. Like I had mentioned to y'all before, early on in the fall, we have a couple campuses that are above already 50% of their seniors who have already attained a CCMR indicator, which is fabulous. There's still a lot of work to be done. But what I will say, just to preface all of this, that these results will not actually come to our accountability table until the following school year. So you're not going to see it right now. You're going to see it next year. The great part of it is that you actually get to predict what your outcome will be. And now that the state has actually moved that up to 88%, from 60%, we realize we have to work a little harder to ensure that we at least get 88% of our seniors with that, and more so with that TCMR indicator. Absolutely.
So I just wanted to add, as Dr. Munoz mentioned, we've had some really targeted discussions about aligning CTE programs and special education programming. And so making sure not only that we're supporting our students within those CTE classrooms, but looking at pathways. Because when pathways became a part of our vocabulary initially about high school graduation, if a student had modified instruction, they were not eligible to earn an endorsement. Right? But now they can. And so we're really having conversations about ensuring that we're offering fourth year science and math classes that are appropriate for students with IEPs that may need additional support so that they can earn an endorsement as well. And when we look at making sure that our students are able to document that they've completed their IEP and demonstrated employability skills, that's when we started to see our CCMR accountability component for special education skyrocket.
So do we have any questions on CCMR? All right, so we'll go ahead and continue to move on. So part of learning support services, one of the greatest aspects of how we have transitioned this year is that we have actually absorbed an additional department, which is the Family Support Services Department, and also our student well-being counselors as well. We do have specialists that have come through, and they're working actually side by side with not only family engagement, guidance services, but also within their own programs. So one of the things that we've been looking at and trying to primarily not only offer everything, we want to be able to offer the right kinds of things for our community and for our students. And one of the things that we see as part of the scorecard, which we were very happy to see, was the fact that students have that opportunity to be able to have that sense of belonging and engagement. And luckily, this is a piece that is highlighted through our scorecard, and it is very evident because not only are we trying to provide a very robust academic curriculum and instruction-focused plan, but we're also trying to make sure that we capture through that very much wraparound services type of approach that our kiddos, whatever backpack they're coming with, they are actually going to be serviced in the best way possible. And providing those programs that are necessary for them and the timely supports is key. So looking at some of the items here, again with the numbers, but I do really have to showcase the work of a lot of our departments. TEA actually recognizes student to student as a program across the state where they acknowledge campuses, districts with that Purple Star designation. And so Dr. Micah, once we had shared the information with him, he was very interested because it not only helps military connected students, but it helps all students who are highly mobile. And we've seen that trend ever since the pandemic and after. And so student to student has taken off. And we are very happy to report that we have the highest number of Purple Star designated campuses in the state. The Military Coalition of Education actually is using our district as a model across the nation. And we actually had Nimitz Middle School who won the Purple Star Team of the Year in DC this last year. And we have a couple of campuses that were already designated as Purple Star, and there's some that are trying to earn their designation for the first time this year, and they're working very, very hard. And it is student-led. It is depending on the sponsor, it could be a teacher, it could be a counselor, it could be an administrator, family engagement specialist, but they work at making sure that they provide a welcoming environment for students. So we're very, very happy and very proud of this accomplishment. It's been actually a year and change in the making. So we also have the Peer Assistant Leadership Program, which is actually one of our students who came in earlier and was part of Tejeda Middle School. He's actually a participant in the PALS program. And we have secondary campuses. We have 286 students in high school, 248 in middle school who actually have close to 1,000 kids that they're mentoring at the earlier grades in elementary. So, so far we have 248 PALIs that were mentored in the first quarter. And they show everything from, great practices when it comes to studying, making sure that they go to class on time, those soft skills as well, being respectful, those soft skills that are super important as they progress from grade level to grade level.
Along the same lines, those PALs work not only with the students that they mentor, but they also play a vital role in working with our students with significant cognitive disabilities. So when it came time that we were shut down for COVID, the PALS kiddos worked very hard to build some videos on how to play backyard games with your family. And that actually turned into our backyard family game night that we have in the fall. And so the PALS kiddos work on building those videos, teaching students how to play the games, and then they facilitate the games at backyard games nights. They also work very closely with our students through Special Olympics at all grade levels, bowling and basketball. And if you come out to watch the middle school and high school basketball tournaments, you'll see an inclusive approach to basketball where the teams are comprised of general education students as well as students with significant cognitive disabilities. And last year, one of our coaches from Johnson High School was actually one of the PALs rather than one of our adapted PE teachers. So very exciting to see the mentorship and the friendship that is developed with those kiddos.
We also have AVID as a program to help with that sense of belonging and engagement. So if a student would like to participate in place of one of their electives, they feel that they need that extra support, we have the AVID program, which is very successful. We have close to 1,500 students enrolled. Last year, which was a great accomplishment, we had over $13 million in scholarships awarded to students who participated in the AVID program, and 100% of those students plan to attend a 2 to 4 year college or university. So we were very happy about that. In addition to that, we know that, students do have that extended, they have their family, and that is an extension of how their progress is during the school day. And so one of the things that we've been trying to do is combine or consolidate those efforts so that to avoid that duplicity of effort, to ensure that everybody plays a part in making sure that families are just as well taken care of. So we have about 786 families who are currently being served by McKinney-Vento services. We have 497 families that were served so far through the food pantry. We have close to 400 kiddos that have received school supplies for the school year, and that is actually, again, if they do go back and they do need additional help, we obviously get that help for them. Transportation, we've helped 196 families with transportation to be able to get to and from school. Emergency clothing, we've had 95 families that we have helped support. And then dental, vision, and health, we've been able to connect 33 families with those services as well. Family engagement, this is actually a program that has taken off as well. We have family engagement, the Leadership Academy, and I believe that you all received an invitation to be able to participate in this year's event. We have 245, we've had 245 graduates, and they actually go through 25 hours of learning. Everything from going on to Skyward to healthy relationships, positive conversations, how can you help your child in school, everything that maybe a parent would need to know, and they actually graduate. So they get a yard sign that they are a Family Engagement Leadership Academy graduate. We've seen actually they have a high school graduate and they're graduating from this academy as well, side by side on a yard, and it's fabulous. And so we usually have evening Zoom classes as well that touch on these topics as well, and we have typically over 100 attendees that attend these evening Zoom classes. This is actually the silver lining that came from COVID, is that you don't have to necessarily tell people to drive to a location. They could just hop on and get that wonderful information. Families are cooking, hopefully they're not driving, and they are listening to this wonderful class. So it's been pretty amazing. And so when we're looking at also offering programs to support mental and emotional, physical well-being for our students, we want to make sure that our parents are our partners in this conversation. Some of the things that we've been doing is through a comprehensive needs assessment, we've been able to collect parent survey data, things that parents and families, students find that is really important that they need more information on. So we're trying to strengthen that communication with families, making sure that we collect as much information as possible, making sure not only that we're collecting that information and providing the support service, but then evaluating those programs to make sure if it's the right fit to what our families and our students need. And then making sure that that guidance curriculum is very much connected to those 4 pillars, making sure that the mental health, the emotional, the physical needs of those students is being taken care of, and constantly that feedback loop, not only from the families, from the students, but also from the teachers, from the counselors, from the staff, to make sure that we're all heading in the right direction. So part of our responsive services, we do have, we've just initiated that. Council of Counselors is actually now for the first time a consolidated effort between our student well-being counselors and our academic guidance counselors, so that they're all enduring the mission together. It is something that collectively they meet once a month. There is professional development based on relevant topics that are happening on their campus. We also look at Senate Bill 179 that was new this year regarding the 80-20. We wanted to ensure that our counselors are actually utilizing their time, that 80% of their workday, of their year is direct student support. And so that is ongoing. We are evaluating it, but we're making sure through a time tracker that the counselors are able to show us exactly what they are doing and how we can better support those kiddos. And then making sure that we're able to support staff, students, parents, families. We have a T-Chat, we have communities in schools, we have community parent nights, the virtual parent nights, we have mental wellness sessions through family engagement, and then we also have small groups and individual counseling sessions that are being provided throughout the district. We also do have that wellness page that is a link there if you would like to click it, and you can go ahead and look at all of the services that are available. Again, we realize not only our families and students have these, have any kind of needs, we also provide these same type of services for our staff as well. Then we have some additional information. I just want to go back real quick. Our progress measures right there are our kids. And that is why I left those pictures on there, because I wanted to make sure that everybody's aware that we do it for the academic support, the mental health and well-being of all of our kids, so that eventually they end up graduating from high school and go beyond the post-secondary setting. And so one of the things that we also did is we heard from our community and from our families, and they really did want to have a one-stop shop where they could go ahead and have access to all of the lessons and everything that's being provided through campuses. And so we created the Northeast ISD Family Engagement Catalog. We have a fall and a spring catalog that is available. Jason, I don't know if you can click on that live link that's right there. This is actually, we're working to get this available onto every single campus website. We're working with Technology Services right now. And if you scroll down just a bit, we have Reagan High School, and we have our lovely principal. And if you scroll down just a tad, right there, it's right just up. So if you click on the catalog, it does give you all of the lessons, all of the classes, along with the Zoom sessions, and it is in English and in Spanish, available for all families. We do have these in print copies as well at all the campuses, and we are working to get those both to title and non-title campuses from our print shop, who's working with us. And if you scroll down, you're going to start to see a lot of the topics, like you have the Parent Cafe, you have understanding any kind of situation that kiddos may be experiencing at this time. We also provide CCMR information so the families understand exactly what is available for their student after they graduate from high school. And then in addition, we also have those additional informations, like, for example, those trainings that are available when parents can participate all in one location.
And this is also an area where, in addition to the special education website, you can find parent engagement activities related to the IEP process and how to support your student if they have special education needs or if they are experiencing a disability. We're like right there, for example, if you go back up just a little bit, there's a section there about post-secondary transition. So our CCMR specialists, our transition specialists, our family engagement folks in special education are working on these things, but as Dr. Munoz mentioned, everything's going into a one-stop shop. So you should start to see things here about what to do if your child's been referred for special education, what kinds of questions you should be asking, what does the ARD process look like, and those sorts of things so that we can better support our families in being active participants in the process.
And so this very much aligns to everything that we have just explained to you from the CNI, this being the first indicator. Hopefully we haven't inundated you with a lot of information, right? But ultimately, it is truly a testament of the work that you as the board do for your community.